Hello, this is another example of the arithmetic series, and the arithmetic series simply just means the sum of terms. We have two possible ways in which we can calculate the sum of the terms. The one is n, standing for the sum, is the position divided by 2, and that we multiply by the sum of the first term, which stands for A, and the last term, which stands for L. So that's new, the last term, and Sn stands for the sum of a number of terms. We've got a second possible formula, which reads the sum equals the position divided by 2, open bracket, twice the first term plus the common difference multiplied by the position minus 1. So I go through that slowly. It is the sum. N, remember, stands for the position. A stands for the first term. D stands for the common difference. And N, once again, stands for the position. This formula I remember by shortening it. The sum is N over 2 times twice the nth term, because A plus D times n minus 1, this part represents the nth term, which you should know from arithmetic progressions or arithmetic sequences. Okay, so once again, I strongly recommend that you identify your given information, because from that you will determine whether you will use the formula 1 or formula 2. Okay, so when we look at this example, the question is how many terms of the series 1916 plus 13 must be added to give us a sum of 44. So the sum of 44 is obviously Sn. And the question is how many terms, meaning n is being asked. Okay, so what I always do, I write down the variables from both of these equations. So for equation 1, my variable is Sn, N, A, and L. Okay, and the second formula has only one different variable, and that's D. That's why for the second formula, I only write down D. So please remember the sequence Sn, N, A, L, D. And I like to give that in a rhythm. So I say to myself, Sn, N, A, L, D. Sn, N, A, L, D. And repeat that a few times, then you will remember that. Okay, so let's go and write the information into my identification. So Sn I have already identified as being 44. Then N is really asked, so that is the question mark. A, which is the first term, I already got, which is 19. L, I don't have the last term, people, so that's also a question mark. Once again, I've got two variables, and I don't have two equations. So let's jump to equation 2. Can we work out the common difference? Yes, we can, because we subtract one term from the previous term. So this is 16 minus 19, which gives me negative 3. So I rather use the second formula, because I've got Sn, I've got A, I must calculate N. Okay, so then we go, once again, step 1 is to substitute. Instead of Sn, we will write 44. Remember, n is being asked, so that will remain n over 2. Then we have 2. We've got term 1, which is 19, plus we have calculated the common difference, which is negative 3 times n, once again, is the variable we must calculate, minus 1, and close the brackets. So when you look at this, people, we will firstly start on the inside calculating the brackets. So this remains n over 2. We can calculate 2 times 19, which is 38. Then we have negative 3 times n, which is negative 3n. And then careful, negative 3 times negative 1, which becomes positive 3. Okay, so now we can still simplify the bracket. So on the right hand side, I will have 38 plus 3, which is 41, minus 3n. Right, and on the left hand side, we still got the sum of 44. Now we've got one variable. We want to solve for n. Remember, I taught you to circle the variable that you want to calculate, which then gives me an indication of what I must move. So firstly, I will use the golden rule, which we use in equations, which we call opposite operation. Goro is o'o. So firstly, I will multiply by 2, so I can get rid of that 2, which becomes 88 equals n, then 41 minus 3n. Right, now I want to remove this bracket. So I will simply multiply out this bracket, which gives me 41n minus 3n squared. On the left hand side, we've got 88. So immediately, people, when you see that, you must think of a quadratic trinomial. And that we can solve by getting the one side equal to 0, okay, and then we can factorize. So that's going to be my next n. I will now move the 41 to that side and the 3n squared to that side. So again, this becomes minus, that one becomes plus, so it will become 3n squared minus 41n plus 88. Remember, the 88 is positive, equals 0. All right, and now I've got a quadratic trinomial which I can factorize. So when I factorize that, remember, it will be the method A1, A2, B1, B2. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please look at the algebraic expression playlist. There are 4 different videos which are called quadratic trinomials, and they are named A1, A2, B1, and B2. So there are 4 videos that explain how to factorize quadratic trinomials. So this one will give me 3n minus 8 and n minus 11. Okay, this equals 0. So when I have two numbers that I multiply and they must give me 0, then either one of them must be 0. So therefore, the next step, 3n minus 8 equals 0, or importantly, n minus 11 equals 0. So now once again, people, we want to find a number value for n. We want to solve these equations, and if you work that out, it will give you n equals 8 over 3 or n equals 11. Okay, now something really important. N, people, gives me a position, right? Which means the position must be a whole positive number, right? I explained that in previous videos that the position is like a race. Who comes first, second, third, and fourth? And if you think of that, then it makes no sense. You can't have the 8/3 position. You must have a whole positive number. So this one is not a relevant answer, people. It's only 11. So when are we going to get a sum of 44? Because that is what being asked, is if we add the first 11 terms. Right, so I will go through very quickly again. The number of terms is asked, okay? The first 3 terms in the series is given, and they ask you which terms will be added to give you a sum of 44. So firstly, I will identify my information for equation 1 and equation 2. And I now taught you to actually remember this in a rhyme or in a pattern. So we say SNN, ALD. SNN, ALD. Write that down, do your identification. With this, once again, we can see we cannot use equation 1 because we've got 2 unknown, right? But with the second equation, I will have only the n being unknown. Therefore, I will substitute my value. I will then use my algebraic knowledge. I will solve this equation, which gives me a quadratic trinomial, which I have to factorize, and then I need to have a good look at my answers. Because the position is asked, I cannot have a fractional or a negative answer. So in this case, only 11 is a relevant answer.